Hello, everyone, and welcome to another All Blaze No Glory YouTube special. I'm joined today by Super Saints fan, former journalist turned air traffic controller, Jamie Beatson. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well as well, and I'm glad you've come to chat to me tonight because super exciting stuff happened at the weekend. St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup final. You looking forward to that?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a huge occasion. It's it's not something you expect St Johnstone to be involved in. It's two cup finals in one season. So it's something I could get used to. But the excitement levels are still through the roof, and can't wait for it to for Saturday to come round.
Yeah. Now, just before we went sort of started recording, I'd asked you and said, apart from Rangers and Celtic, obviously the old firm. It's been a long time since any other team has really had a chance of doing a double, and you were explaining a bit about. I think the last time was maybe Aberdeen. So you just want to talk us through what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the kind of I'm sure it was mid '80s and maybe 1990, Aberdeen managed to do a cup double. You got to bear in mind back then that was before the kind of about the last time that a team outside Rangers and Celtic was capable of winning the league. So, that was Alex Ferguson's Aberdeen teams of the mid-80s, and the team that followed on from that into kind of 1990. They were still, if not the best team in Scotland, certainly second best. It was them that was fighting it out for the league title every year up to the top end of the league. Obviously, since then, the financial gap between Rangers and Celtic and the rest has grown so big that it's almost impossible to imagine another team winning the Scottish Premiership now. And no one else has managed to do both cups in one season. So, this is kind of dream stuff for St Johnstone, especially, you think if it was going to be a team that would do a cup double, to have the chance that it would be a Hibs or a Hearts or an Aberdeen, one of the bigger teams that maybe got the squad depth to challenge on more than one front in a year. So for a small team like Saints to be involved, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and just before we look a little bit at the Scottish Cup run, obviously Saints already have a title as you've alluded to this season, and what was the running like to the League Cup for St Johnstone?
Well, I mean, I think the group stages were way back last July, so that was kind of you play against quite a lot of smaller teams there. I think we played Peterhead, Kelty Hearts, and I think maybe East Fife, and we got through that. We weren't brilliant. We did what was required, and it was kind of treated as a pre-season thing at that stage. We then played Dunfermline in the quarter-final. We played Motherwell first, beat them quite comfortably. Played Dunfermline in the next round. And that was a real struggle, and that went all the way to penalties. So we got through that. Brilliant. We're in a semi-final. This is great. But we got Hibs. And we're thinking, Hibs have beaten us early in the season. How's this going to go? It's going to be a tough game. They've got a lot of players that can really hurt you. And we went out at Hampden and absolutely smashed them off the park. 3-0. It was just an unbelievable game, and set us up great for the final against Livingston. And it's the lead up to that was, as everything is these days, it was just bizarre knowing that your team's in a cup final and you're not going to see it in person. You're not going to have the atmosphere on the streets beforehand because we're pretty much in full-on lockdown at that stage. So the whole build-up to that just wasn't what you wanted it to be. But I would say that watching the game, the tension levels, the excitement levels were still right up there. Still high-octane stuff watching it. And the celebrations, albeit they were a bit more low-key than maybe when we won the Scottish Cup in 2014, they were still, pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. Just on that, I mean, obviously, all the games are behind closed doors at the moment. Do you think that gives an advantage to maybe the smaller teams because they're not maybe faced with the hostile crowds that maybe going to an Ibrox or a Celtic Park would bring?
I think that probably feeds into it a bit, yeah. I mean, you look at our quarter-final Scottish Cup against Rangers at Ibrox, I could see us putting in that battling 90-minute performance and getting to extra time. Yeah, that could happen. the crowd could be quite hostile. The crowd could turn on their own players if it's not going their way. But I wonder how different it would have been at the end of extra time where Rangers scored with 2 minutes to go, and whether, with a crowd in the stadium, the atmosphere might have been kind of crushing for a team that has, battled for that long, if they could still make the comeback the way we did. I mean, it really is hard to say, because I think the dynamic and the atmosphere definitely changes in front of those big crowds, and it may well have swung things against us, but then maybe that's not a bad thing, because we're seeing kind of a true sporting test this season of the players and the coaching, and that all coming out and it being a much more level playing field.
Yeah, and I suppose in some ways with empty crowds, and I don't know if you agree with this, it shows the players who motivate themselves, no matter what, and the ones who maybe need that crowd to motivate themselves. So maybe the ones who are hungry are going to win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can see that there are players that feed off the atmosphere, and sometimes that's a good thing, and other times you can see players get over the top and get themselves in situations they shouldn't get into, because the crowd's wound them up. But I think what's this season for Saints is it's been testament to the way the management have come in and put their style on the squad and put their work ethic into the team, that they're able to, in whatever circumstances, in whatever stadium they play in, put in the same kind of level of performance and effort and tactical discipline, no matter what the situation is.
Great stuff. And just on that Rangers game, I wasn't aware, because I wasn't following closely enough until I saw the adverts on Premier Sports, that the goalie had actually scored the equaliser. I mean, what was that like? Is that sort of the most mad thing you've ever seen as a Saints fan?
Oh, actually, it's not the first time I've seen a goalkeeper score for Saints. And I think also he's not actually been given the goal, unfortunately. They've given it to the striker who touched it over the line. But I think you've got to give that to Xander Clark. It's if he doesn't head it, it doesn't go in the back of the net. But yeah, I mean, I have actually. It doesn't happen very often, but many years ago, I went to watch Saints play up in Dingwall away at Ross County. We were 2-1 down going into injury time, and out of nowhere, the goalkeeper comes up for the corner, doesn't just head it into the net, he chests it down, takes it down his thigh and then smashes it on the half volley into the back of the net. Just a brilliant moment, because it's just one of those totally unexpected things. You never expect to see that in real life, and certainly not in a situation like Xander Clark's goal or assist or whatever you want to call it. To see it in injury time, in extra time, away at Ibrox, it was such an unbelievable thing to see, and it's a great moment for a guy like that as well, who they're never going to get credit. Goalkeepers generally, you only really notice them if they make a mistake. So brilliant moment for him and great moment for us, and it's built the platform for us to get to the final. Yeah.
Now, obviously playing Hibs again, you met them in the Scottish Cup semi-final, as you say, blew them off the park. It was 3-0. Do you think that gives Saints the psychological edge in this one?
I don't know how that plays into it, really. I mean, on the one hand, we've played them 3 times in 2021. We've won 3, scored 5, conceded none, and that whether it factors into how either team approaches the game, I don't know. I would have thought that the only way it really factors in is if Saints were to go ahead in the game, and the Hibs management might be like, well, what do we do? We've not managed to crack them in the last 3 games. What do we do now? But I think the thing is that Hibs have so many players in their team that can do damage, to other teams. They've got Martin Boyle, who's just lightning fast and can run past players. They've got Doige, who can get his head on anything in the box. All it takes is a moment for one of these guys in the Hibs team, who are some of the better players in the league. All it takes for them is a moment, and that's a goal scored and the game totally turns on its head, and the whole pre-match psychological advantage goes out the window. I would just hope the Saints approach it with the same attitude that they have with every other game, certainly in both cup runs and for most of 2021 so far, which is taking the attitude that we're going to play our game, we're going to try and force the game onto the opposition, and if they're going to win it, they're going to have to do something special. And that's been quite successful for us for the last few months.
Okay, and if for the neutrals, who are the most exciting players to look out for in this game for Saints?
Well, there's kind of there's a whole load of different areas of the park you can look at. I mean, there's someone like Ali McCann has been a standout performer for Saints this season. He might not do the most exciting stuff, but he's a young guy who just dominates the centre of midfield against just about everyone in the league. Just a great passer of the ball, breaks up play, always in the right place at the right time. Also has a bit of touch of class about him. If you're looking at guys that are going to be more kind of in-your-face impact, you're going to watch out for Sean Rooney at right back, who is just a man mountain and a total machine and an athlete who will run and run and run up and down the park the entire game. And, no lack of skill as well. He's good with the ball at his feet, and he scores some really satisfying headed goals as well, where he just bashes everyone out of the way and plants his head in the ball, puts it in the back of the net. It's exactly what you want to see. Another one as well, maybe two players who you might see playing, maybe not both from the start, but certainly likely to feature at the top end of the parts, David Wotherspoon and Glenn Middleton, both former Hibs players. But they've both, Wotherspoon's been at Saints for a long, long time now. Middleton's just here on loan, but both of them this season have just shown tremendous form when they have played. Wotherspoon's just he's a veteran now, but he's got all the experience, all the skill, and all the guile really to take apart any team. And Middleton's a much younger player, but he's just got a bit of magic about his boots. It's shown us that he can score free kicks. He scored a cracker in the semi-final, and he's just an exciting player to watch. So there's lots there to be positive about for Saints, and like any big game, you just want them all to show their best form on the day.
Yeah. So just talk us through what's your setup going to be on Saturday. You're obviously going to be laser focused on the Scottish Cup final. How you going about your day?
Well, it's going to be quite different from 2014. 2014 Cup final, we were out the door at 9 a.m, making our way through Glasgow, working our way up to Celtic Park in the city centre, and in the stadium, drinking in the atmosphere for quite a bit before the game, and then afterwards came back to Perth for a party. It's going to be a bit different this year. We're not going to have that. So, I think in the morning I'll be taking my little man to swimming class, the same as I do every other Saturday. But then once that's done, we're going to get down to business. We're going to meet some friends. We're going to, because we're allowed to do that now, it's just such a crazy thing to think that we are allowed to go into our friends' houses now. You wouldn't have thought about that 2 years ago. But we can do that now, and we're going to do that. And we're going to, get a couple of beers and watch the game and hopefully have something to celebrate at the end of it. And it's not going to be the same, but it's going to be a memory no matter what happens, and hopefully the result turns out right and it'll be a good memory. Yeah.
Do you think there'll be do you think Tay Street will be torn apart in much the same manner as George Square if Saints win?
I can't imagine any scenario where I or any other Saints fan decides to want to celebrate a historic occasion in the club's history by smashing a bottle off of someone else's head. So it seems unlikely. There might be some stupidity involved. There might be some wild celebrations, but it's not one that's going to turn into a violent scene. I can't imagine. So, we're all quite good lads up here, I think.
Just a couple of more things, just off the topic of the Scottish Cup for a minute. Our mutual friend, Big Fraser McDonald, obviously he'll be very excited, as am I actually, as a sort of loose follower of Dundee Football Club, featuring in the playoff final against Kilmarnock. As a Saints fan, are you rooting against Dundee, or do you want to see them back in the Premiership and get that extra derby?
Well, it's a hard one. I would, on one hand, I'd love to, if we're allowed to go to games next season, I'd like to get Kilmarnock out the leagues, because Dundee's just easier to get to and it's more fun. And quite honestly, we could do with the free 9 points next season, because we would just be expecting Dundee to come up and go straight back down again. So No, I mean it's a tough game to call. I think Dundee have got some good players in their team, but I think they're weak at the back, and I don't think Charlie Adam in the middle will cope necessarily after a season of playing in the Championship, cope with the pace of a Premiership midfield buzzing around him. And I can see Kyle Lafferty doing some damage to that Dundee defence if he plays his best game. Dundee have got a bet going forward. And if Adam can pull the strings, then they've got a chance. But I can see, maybe they get a result at Dens Park, but I can see it going to Rugby Park and Kelly, doing the business on the day to keep them in the Premiership. I wouldn't say that I don't want Dundee up. If Dundee came up, that'd be great because, these big games, the bigger crowds, which generally get Saints Dundee games, are ones you look forward to. A local derby is, going to Dens Park. I live halfway between Perth and Dundee. I work in Dundee. It's just about a home game for me. So yeah, I'd much rather have them in the Premiership, to be honest. But I just can't see it happening this time round.
Okay. And just last thing, I don't know if you've got your head around it yet, but the Scotland team for Euro 2020, obviously being played in 2021, has been announced. Pretty happy with it, or is there anyone you think's a huge omission?
I don't think there's any absolutely glaring omissions in it. There's a few players that I wouldn't have in there. I'm not a fan of taking Rangers' second choice goalkeeper. Just what's the point? He doesn't get a game for his club, so why not? And he's 35, John McLaughlin. Why not bring in a younger keeper that plays? We're going to have to forward plan here at some stage. So bring in Liam Kelly from Motherwell or something like that, just to give him a bit of experience. There's a couple other players in there that I think is a bit of a waste of time, but it's not glaring things. What I would say, and this is very much my St Johnstone hat on, is this Saints team is built with a core of young Scottish players in it who have been brilliant this season, have won one trophy, are in the final of another, have finished fifth in the league. We are taking two Motherwell defenders who have had poor seasons for the most part in the domestic game. And, we've got the likes of Jason Kerr, who's probably been the best Scottish centre-back in the league this season. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I've no doubt if he played for Aberdeen, he'd be a straightforward pick for Steve Clarke, just playing the way he does just now. And it's disappointing not to even hear him mentioned. I think also the guy Nathan Patterson from Rangers has a tremendous hype train on the go with him. I mean, he may well turn out, I really do hope he turns out to be the real deal at right back, because we need a top class right back. We've got two world class left backs, and we've got a right back that plays for Motherwell starting our games. There's a huge imbalance there, and I really hope Nathan Patterson turns out to be the guy for the next 10 years at right back. But he's played, I think he started 4 league games at the age of 19. I'm not sure that that's someone that if O'Donnell gets injured, I want to chuck him straight in against England and Croatia in a tournament. So, I've mentioned Sean Rooney already. He's been absolutely sensational this season. Get him in there. He's a great lad. Great in there. Powerful, athletic. Played a lot more football as well. A lot more experience. But it's not like it's a glaring omission. It's just with my Saints hat on, I would love to see these guys get a chance, because there's always a feeling that Saints players just don't get picked for Scotland no matter what they achieve in the domestic game. And it seems like a real shame to me, because there's a lot of good players there, and there's a lot of other players playing at exactly the same level against exactly the same players who do get into the squad. So yeah, but I think it's kind of picking around the edges really. It's I think your starting 11 is going to be pretty settled. Maybe one or two little tweaks here and there. There's not really much argument in it. It's when most of the players that I wouldn't bother having are guys that are maybe third choice in a position. It's not going to make any difference when the games come round.
Fair enough. That's good stuff. So just lastly, before I let you go, because I've taken up quite a lot of your evening, but if it was to be putting a scorecast on Paddy Power, what would be your tip for this weekend?
I said this earlier on to someone else. I think I can see it being a very tight game, very tight. Saints don't score an awful lot of goals. The 3-0 in the semi-final of the League Cup came out of nowhere. So I would say, and the other thing is we don't give up many chances. That's our whole game plan, is to stop the opposition getting to touch the ball in our penalty box. So I would say a low-scoring draw, 0-0 or 1-0. I could see going all the way to penalties. I'm not sure how I'm going to cope with that if it goes to penalties. It's going to be a roller coaster, but I can see a low-scoring draw on the cards.
Cool. Just before I let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to that might listen to this, or we can bully into listen to it if they
well, I think it's we go back a long way, Richard. All the same people that I do who would get a shout out. So let's say the guys I'm going to watch the game with, it's going to be Neil, Klatschak, Ross Ray, and Big Kev. The guys.
I
know. The usual Saints game crew, big game crew. Here's hoping we've got something to celebrate come 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for your time, Jamie.
Thanks very much for having me on.